It's Wednesday, the 22nd of December 2021. Welcome to the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Morning, Michael.
5 stories in 5 minutes. Here we go, Sean. Story number 1, and the news over the past 24 hours really has all been about the spread of COVID.
Yes, unfortunately, that's correct. The Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, was resisting calls for a reintroduction of mask mandates yesterday and said the federal government didn't have the power to tell the states what to do. He pointed out that the Omicron variant was leading to fewer instances of hospitalisation. Good news, of course, though it's probably too soon to be too confident about that one. When National Cabinet meets today, it's very possible, though, that the federal, state and territory leaders will emerge with new rules for mask wearing in indoor settings. It sounds sensible to me, given the spread of the virus. The numbers yesterday were awful. New South Wales was above 3,000 cases, a new record. Victoria reported 1,245 cases, and there are some signs that the surge in that state may have peaked. South Australia was at a new record, 154 cases. Same for Queensland, 69 cases. The ACT had 16, the Northern Territory 14, and Tasmania 4. We'll wait and see what happens today. Very, very worrying, though.
Yeah, certainly is. Okay, story number 2, Sean, and there's been a lot of discussion, particularly overseas, about the Great Resignation. And yesterday, the Reserve Bank of Australia board minutes were released and the RBA weighed in on the debate.
Yes, they did. These are the minutes from the board meeting of 2 weeks ago. The key message from that is that they're looking for wages growth before they do anything on interest rates, and that's not likely to happen anytime soon, 2023, 2024 most likely. But they did weigh into the Great Resignation debate. Now, it's getting plenty of airplay in the US and Europe. It's where masses of people leave their jobs and look for something different. The Reserve Bank doesn't think it's happening here because JobKeeper payments kept staff tied to their employer even if they weren't working. So those staff can go back to their old jobs, presumably on the same wage rate. That actually keeps a lid on wage pressures as well. In the US and Europe, though, people are reconsidering, shifting, changing jobs. That's the argument anyway. The Reserve Bank doesn't really buy it, though.
Yeah, I think, Sean, you and I have had this debate previously. I was saying it was happening. You're saying it's not. Now you've got the Reserve Bank on your side. I think I may have to concede.
No, I wouldn't concede. Let's see how we go next year, Michael.
Yeah, there's still time. Speaking of time, Sean, story number 3, we haven't even had Christmas yet, but you want to talk about Boxing Day sales.
Absolutely. And that's because a survey by the Commonwealth Bank released yesterday shows that 40% of people looking to take part in the Boxing Day sales have already predicted they'll spend around $600 each. That's up 14% on what they said they'd do last year. Basically, consumers are flush with cash and ready to spend probably about $4 billion on the 26th of December. Now, Commonwealth Bank, looking at its debit card activity, said sales in December will be up around 23%. On credit cards, will be up around 18%. People are still going to the stores for the experience and they're looking for inspiration. They shop online for convenience and to avoid queues and traffic. It just looks like a bumper post-Christmas selling season for the retailers.
Yeah, it certainly does. Story number 4 today, Sean, and we're very positive here at Fear and Greed. We're always looking for the silver lining. And there's an interesting piece that's been running in the Financial Review about how the silver lining from COVID-19 has actually been a rapid shift in ethical and social awareness among big companies.
Yes, the author's June Bailu from Tribeca Investment Partners. She argues that as a result of the pandemic, many large companies have looked beyond just making returns for shareholders. Instead, they're being more holistic, thinking about the needs and wellness of other stakeholders, including employees, suppliers, customers, in fact, the wider community. She gives examples: Woolies dedicated shopping hours for the most vulnerable, Ramsay Healthcare making hospital beds available during the worst of the pandemic, Telstra delaying job cuts. Another area which has changed, she says, is executive compensation, where environmental, social and governance incentives have accelerated. What Ms. Bailu is saying is that companies are thinking far more holistically post-pandemic.
Yeah, Sean, I don't want to be too cynical, but will it last?
Good question. Ms. Bailu thinks it will because investors will force companies to resist falling back to old ways. Companies that operate in a modern manner will be rewarded in terms of share prices. We can only hope.
Okay, on to story number 5. Last one for this morning, Sean. And one of the most recognisable brands in the world, of course, is Nike. And when they announce their results, everybody watches really closely. Why?
Well, it's a bellwether for consumer spending. Now, they've come out and said they made $1.3 billion for the 3 months to the end of November. Solid without being great. People like to see where they're selling because it actually shows what's happening in consumer land around the world. It just shows the power of Nike. In this instance, sales in Greater China had fallen due to inventory challenges, but things in North America and Europe were actually up, and this was pre-Omicron, of course. Nike's share price has more than tripled over the past 5 years. It's been a really successful company.
Yeah, certainly has. That's it. The top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Wednesday, the 22nd of December 2021. Remember to hit follow on the podcast, and why not give us a 5-star rating as well? Star ratings have just been turned on Spotify, so if you're enjoying the podcast, you can be one of the first to give us 5 stars. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.